Hello again, welcome to day 8. So I've decided to switch things up a bit this week after 7 days of doing this. So firstly, I'm going to have the mic right in front of my face when I'm speaking into it because apparently my videos so far have been a little bit quieter than usual YouTube videos, and so when people switch videos they're noticing that. And secondly, I have just been for the first week recording raw coding sessions, so you're just seeing me sit there, think, oftentimes debug, and sometimes just sitting in silence, right? So that's completely transparent, but I don't think that's the best way necessarily to for people to extract value from this content. So what I'm going to do going forward is I'm going to do some work and then periodically check in, explain what I've been doing, what I plan to do next, what challenges I've faced, stuff like that. Okay, so yeah. This should make the videos also much shorter. So rather than something like 3 hours, where mostly like people are skipping through, maybe when I'm taking you through stuff quickly in a video, which is maybe less than half an hour now, like people can like pause if they need to and look at what I'm doing that way. So I think that'll be better. So anyway, just before I get to work, some interesting updates that have happened. So let me just open Cursor. Okay, so the Cursor team has added, and I'm going to change this thing so I can barely see this actually when it's bright in here. So they've added DeepSeek R1 as a model now. Now, it turns out, and this is sort of similar to my experience yesterday, R1 is very good at planning and that, but when it comes to actually executing code changes, the issue is that it struggles with tool calls and accurately calling those. So yesterday, if you were observant to the client logs, you would have noticed that it was trying to call like the replace and like write and replace tools, and it was finding that it couldn't match code in files and then just appending it, and that's where it was running into issues. So today I'm going to sort of change up my workflow a bit. I'm going to try getting R1 to write some of the planning documents, and then I'm going to switch to Claude 3.5 Sonnet to go ahead and make the changes. You should know also DeepSeek R1 is a premium model in Cursor, so that's something to bear in mind. It will use up your premium queries. And also it has been known to take more than a minute to think and return information. So yeah, I'll be back later. Okay, so I quickly want to show you something that's sort of been annoying me with this whole client and server setup I've been doing here, and that's basically getting the right Python interpreter selected. So what I was doing was selecting the interpreter, select interpreter path, and then go find, and I select it from the environment, bin, Python. Okay, I do that. Now I've done it the right way so it doesn't break here, but if I quit, and I open again, and we wait, see, it's reverted to Conda as a base, which is weird. And I've just been working through it because it doesn't really matter because I know that the environment's set up correctly, but if you just type in server bin, env bin Python, set it that way, right, and then I quit, and then I come back. Now it's remembered it. Weird, right? But yeah, you guys might be struggling with that as well, so there you go. Okay, so I just want to run through what I've been doing so far. So I reviewed the code yesterday that Claude wrote about making the bots configurable, and I didn't really like the strategy because I'm thinking I actually don't necessarily want to make the pipeline fully configurable as if I'm trying to replace VAPI or something like that. I actually have an opinion on the optimal pipeline, and I think that that's best expressed actually in code. And then the only thing that might need to be configured is the system prompt, and I still have to figure out the best way to do that if we're switching between a single prompt and multi-prompt bot. So I reverted to the dev branch. Luckily I did this on its own branch and just sort of abandoned that. So I've reverted to the dev branch and I've started to go there. First thing I did was just clean up some of the code because there's some redundancies, there's unused imports and stuff. Then I dumped the code into a file, gave it to Claude and asked it to identify any redundancies. I took this redundancy analysis, saved it here, and this was actually pretty good because a lot of this, it spotted that a lot of the code in the simple bot and the flow bot is identical, and it suggested making some factories for the common parts, which is actually a good approach. That's kind of what I wanted to do, and I didn't have to tell it that I wanted to sort of unify the bots and come up with these, like, sort of extract the core pipeline, if you like. So then, with this generalized redundancy analysis, I went to DeepSeek. Right. So the interesting thing about this is you can't run DeepSeek in Cursor using the agent one. You have to use the normal composer, but you can switch between the normal composer and the agent composer. So I said, please review the redundancy analysis document and the code under server. And I want you to create 3 more documents in the tasks for each of the first 3 tasks here, because these are the ones I really want done. It thought through it, made some pretty good documents, and then I switched to the agent mode and asked Cursor with Claude 3.5 Sonnet to implement the centralized config plan. It's done that pretty well. And I had to do some fixes. I actually had to go through line by line, because I'm finding essentially when I make changes, when it's completed a task, and then I ask it to do something else, it doesn't take into account what I've done, not in the same way that Windsurf does, which is a big difference, quite annoying. So I have to start a new composer thing to give it new instructions, and then it will check everything again. And then I can go from there. So I've got it effectively now switching between bots via the command line, but I have an issue that I have to fix with the actual bot thing. So I'm just going to carry on plugging away at that. Okay, yes, so baby steps. I just wanted to run you through the changes I've made so far. So as I mentioned, I made some documents, so that was the first thing I did. Then I told it to go ahead with the first change, centralizing config, and it began doing that. And I just made some changes for consistency. So the bot was called simple bot, but it's in directory simple, so just call it bot. And then it wasn't actually able to switch between the flow type bot, the multi-prompt one, and the simple bot. So I fixed that. And then I moved the Calcom API to the utility directory. We have now a utility directory where the configuration is all sorted out. And then, right, so originally the flow bot was using the runner, which I think at this point I can probably look at getting rid of. And yep, so it was actually loading a daily room from config rather than using the one generated when you connect to the server. So I fixed that. And now you can actually run it, for example, like this. And then you can speak to the simple one.
Hello there. I'm David, the helpful voice assistant for John George Voice AI Solutions.
Okay, so that works. And then you can also start with the flow. And then we can chat to that one. This one's broken, really. Like, I'm just going to say the intro twice.
That's completely fine. No worries at all. By the way, may I have your name, please?
Okay, well, if you interrupt it, apparently it works, but if I didn't say anything, it would have been asking for my name twice. But yep, so I have to do a bit more code cleanup now. And yeah, hopefully that's clear. I will be committing this, publishing this, rather pushing this to my GitHub so you can go through the changes. Okay, so while DeepSeek is working, I just want to say, yeah, I removed the dependency on the runner class, and now the variables are all passed to the bots directly. So that's consistent. And then I asked DeepSeek to go ahead and update the redundancy analysis based on the updated code in server. It did a good job of that. Now I asked it to, for each of the outstanding tasks, make a detailed plan in the tasks folder, and it started doing that, and then it suddenly stopped here. So I just said, please continue. And it does seem to have the context to continue. So it's actually finished that plan. Now it's doing the package cleanup plan. So yeah, hopefully this works out okay. Okay, so we've now got a pipeline builder and a transport factory, which is used successfully by both the simple bot and the flow bot. And we got to the bottom of why the flow bot was repeating messages more than once. It's because there was more than one context aggregator in there. So fixed that. And now if we run the flow bot,
Hello there. Thanks for reaching out. May I know your name, please?
yeah, it's John.
Great to meet you, June.
Okay, so the next thing is that I've moved the Calcom API thing into the utilities, and I just need to fix that and get it working. I'm going to get it working with the simple bot first, and then I'm going to convert the simple bot into a flow one. Okay, so firstly, when I said I was going to convert the simple bot to a flow one, what I mean is I'm going to polish the single prompt thing and then convert that to a flow. Secondly, I just want to take you through some of the annoyances working with Claude 3.5 Sonnet and Cursor. So when you give it a very specific bounded task, it takes liberties. Like, for example, in the argument parser section, like it just removed the long form, the type validation and the required, and just had the help and the short form there. And also, even more frustratingly here, it removed the keyword argument part, and that actually broke it. That broke the code, right? Because this is a keyword argument, not a positional argument. It just removed this and put this, just passed the variable in there by itself. So you've really got to go through this line by line when you're working with these tools. Just wanted to share that. Okay, yeah, I can tell it's going to be a super short video today. So I basically finished the pipeline and transport factories, checked those in, deleted the remaining tasks, the remaining documents, because I'm not really interested in doing those at this stage, cleaned up some of the code, and now I'm getting it to perform an analysis on the two different bots so I can see how much of this like actual code that builds the bot I can move into a centralized class, which we can extend for each case, and then I want the configs to be sort of just in here. So DeepSeek is thinking. So I'll see how long that takes. It's been going for a while now. Yeah. But that's to be expected with these reasoning models. This process is working quite well, by the way, so far, getting the DeepSeek model to plan and Claude to execute. The only thing is, as I mentioned, getting Claude to execute, you've really just got to, I suppose, be careful about how you instruct it and then go through the code line by line to make sure it's not overwritten stuff that's not making any progress to the code. In fact, sometimes can break it. So, yep. I must say I'm very impressed with what it's done. It's run out of output tokens again, so that seems to be an ongoing issue, but it thinks through everything, outputs its thought process, which is pretty cool. It's identified everything that can be extracted, although I should have explained that the cal.com component is only in the flow bot at the moment, just because I've only implemented that there. It's going to be in both. So I'll explain that afterwards when it's actually written the document. Ran out of tokens, asked if I wanted it to implement any of the changes, and I said, just please finish writing the document. and it's thinking again. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so this model really takes its time, and I'm kind of bored, so I've got nothing better than to chat to you. So it actually didn't finish again the document until the end. So I've had to ask it again to write the document. If it fails this time, I'm probably going to have to try and use the copy feature, which we do actually have in Cursor, but not in Windsurf the last time I used it. Use that to just copy it into the document. So, yeah. Definitely Claude 3.5 Sonnet is a lot faster, and DeepSeek is only usable for the planning, because otherwise you will be here all day. Okay, it's very interesting what's going on now. DeepSeek is confused by my request. Have a read of this. Can't be bothered to read it all out for you, but essentially, it has the context of the previous chat. It's seen that it's already given me a detailed document. Then I asked it to carry on, and it saw that it finished off the completed sections, and now it's wondering why I'm asking it to carry on and write into the document. The content inside was empty. Okay, so I'm going to have to just try and copy this into the document myself. But fair enough, there's some good analysis in here to use. Yeah, so it turns out it wasn't so easy to copy things over. So what I did is just copy the 3 answers, one after the other, and then explain what happened to Claude and asked it to synthesize all 3 answers into a coherent document in an artifact. And now I've got this. Okay, yeah, so I just gave it another quick clarification because it included some extra bits and excluded some detail. And this actually now looks pretty cool. Look at this. I really like the look of that. So yeah, let's see if we can get this done. Okay. So I'm not sure what to say about today, because I'm in 2 minds about whether this exercise has been useful. So in my mind, what I've been trying to do is abstract the bot creation into a bot framework, configuration, event handlers, centralized, and PipelineBuilder, the service handlers that make up the components of the pipeline, and also the transport. And this is working. We sort of snatched victory from the jaws of defeat with the very last composer agent to run through, because essentially, even after creating this bot framework, this was pretty much just all stubs, and a lot of code was duplicated between the flow bot and the simple bot. Now, in my mind, these abstractions are necessary because I want to minimize the config that's required by users at some point. So I'm thinking essentially they just need to specify the system prompt or call flow and their preferred voice. Just like the minimum stuff. Now, I guess this is progress towards there. And also, I mean, it does work. So, I mean, if I run the simple bot and then connect,
Hello. I'm David, your helpful voice assistant from John George Voice AI Solutions. How can I assist you today?
well, I need a bot to handle out-of-hours calls.
I'll be happy to assist you with that. So that I address you correctly, may I know your full name?
Okay, so it is actually following the system prompt. Okay, and it is successfully cleaning everything up afterwards. And the flow one, the actual flow is broken now because it's for some reason moved from a static flow to just, I don't know what it's really done actually. It's not a dynamic flow thing. It's probably just hallucinated this, but if we run it, it will play the first node. So I just need to copy that from a previous commit into this.
Hi there. Thanks for calling. May I have your name, please?
Yeah, it's John. So the static flow isn't correctly set up, but it cleaned up the room. Actually, I think I stopped it before it did that. Okay. So it has to gracefully do that if you send SIGINT. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up for today. I've checked in the changes. I'm going to merge this to my dev branch, push my dev branch to my repository on GitHub if anyone wants to look at this, and I'll get back to it tomorrow. So if anyone's following this and you have any opinion on this new format and whether you prefer this or the old format, or if you have any suggestions on how to make this better, I would love to see those in the comments. Other than that, cheerio. See you tomorrow, I guess. Sure, so just one last update. I decided not to merge this branch back to the dev branch because it just doesn't work yet, and I just don't want to do that. So I've just pushed the main dev and the refactor branch to my public repository in case anyone wants to have a look. Okay, later.